food, baseball food, pizza, wings, and beer. You know, you can bring your kids in and, you know, they can play pool or play the video games, or they can sit with you and watch TV too, because you got the TVs in every dining room. It's such a place that you can come in with your family and sit down. And again, it's family oriented because it's family owned. When you walk in here, it's like a TV show, Cheers. Everybody knows your name. And you can expect that from in here because everybody knows everybody else.
Sideline Guys back on the air. SidelineGuys.recordernews.com. Mark Robarge along with Adam Schinder. As always, brought to you by our friends at Crystal Ristorante, 72 Lion Street in Amsterdam. The best in pizza, Italian food, and of course, good times. All at Crystal Ristorante. Want to get right to business because in about 4.5 hours from now, maybe a little bit more, oh boy, I'd say a little more than that, about 6.5 hours, going to be kicking off the end of college basketball season. And probably one of the matchups you never would have thought at the beginning of the year would be wrapping it up.
No, about the second straight year you would have said that. These Butler Bulldogs just have a way of showing up here at the first Monday night in April. And it's really a testament to what Brad Stevens has done there. He's really taken what Mark Few did at the beginning of this decade at Gonzaga, and he's done it 10 times that. Mark Few turned a program out in Spokane, Washington into a success. Brad Stevens turned this program in Indiana, that's really the 4th program in the state of Indiana, and he's turned them into a powerhouse.
And it's interesting, in Jim Calhoun talking over the weekend, of course, Calhoun, the coach of UConn, the other team in this game tonight, talking about the success of Butler really shouldn't be that much of a surprise because all the changes that have happened in college and professional basketball over the last maybe decade and a half have led to this almost, I guess for lack of a better word, you could call it parity in college basketball with the one-and-dones and everything like that. It really does give no program the advantage. Maybe Kentucky gets a little bit of an advantage because they bring in all these different one-and-dones every year for John Calipari. But what do you think? You agree?
It definitely has started to change a little bit. It's why I've always been in favor of the NBA instituting something to the degree of what Major League Baseball has with its draft, in that you can come out of high school, but if you go to college, it's 3 years.
Well, and it's interesting because in the day before all the high school kids started coming out, that was basically what you had. If you wanted to come out early, you had to go through what was called the hardship draft, where you had to have 3 years in. And I kind of agree with you as well. I mean, it makes a lot of sense because, look, a lot of these cases, these one-and-dones are jokes as students. So why perpetuate the joke? Why not just be legitimate about it and say, hey, you know what? Go ahead, go to the NBA if you want to. But what I would do is if a kid declares for the draft and isn't drafted, I would allow him to get his college eligibility anyway. Don't punish the kid for taking a look at what his future holds.
And they have some of that, but I do agree with them for at least if you should be able to keep that eligibility if you don't sign with an agent. Once you sign with an agent, that's the end of it, because as soon as you sign with an agent, you're a professional athlete in my mind.
I can agree with that. But anyway, let's get back to the game. I know we both said last week that we would not be surprised if Butler actually won the national championship. Are you still willing to go out on that limb now?
You know what, I will. I'll go out on that limb because I think this matchup comes down to 2 things. I think Butler has the defensive guards that you can throw out there in Shelvin Mack and Ronald Nora at Kemba Walker. And I think the matchup in the post with Matt Howard, I don't think either Charles Aquando or Alex Oriaki can step out and defend Matt Howard. I think he becomes a real deciding factor.
Well, I agree with you. I think it does come down basically to Matt Howard against Kemba Walker. But like I said last week, we've said that so many teams have come out there and said they can throw somebody at Kemba and slow him down, and it hasn't happened. I think Kemba is, apologies to Jimmer, probably been the best player of the overall season, and that includes going through the NCAA tournament as well. And I think he's going to make the difference tonight. I think Jim Calhoun is a smart enough and shrewd enough coach that he will find some gimmick or scheme to free up Kemba to get his shots. And I think in the end that's going to make the difference. I think UConn wins the national championship.
Oh, no. I mean, if you're going to look at an example of what Kemba Walker is recreating, the closest thing is probably 1998 or 1988 with Kansas and Danny Manning and the Miracles.
Absolutely.
It's been a one-man show, and you cannot say enough good things about Kemba Walker. Really only been shut down once this entire season in Hartford against Syracuse back in January.
Okay, so do we want to go double or nothing on our bracket bet on the game tonight?
Nope.
I'm not trying to get out of that Eagles jersey yet, but I can't do it. Anyway, want to switch gears? Let's talk a little high school baseball. I know the season was technically supposed to kick off on Friday. We avoided the snowstorm, but we didn't avoid the rain that rained out Amsterdam's opener. More rain today. Looks like nothing could be opening up today either. Hopefully this week some of the teams will get out on the field. And I know we both have a couple of questions we have to look forward to this season.
Oh yeah, and Amsterdam's scheduled to have 3 home games this week. Scheduled to be tomorrow, season opener against South Glens Falls, then Gloversville on Wednesday, then a Friday night home game against Broad Alban Perth. And when it comes to the Amsterdam Rams, the big thing this season is pitching. And it's all going to come down to the guy who really stepped into the shoes of the ace last year, and that's left-hander Kyle Roofer. Bob Noto told me last week he's added a couple of miles an hour to his fastball. He's a lefty. He's got a bit of a different delivery, can't really pick up the ball well. He's a guy who really developed into a strong starting pitcher last year, and if the Rams have any hope to really contend in a tough Big Ten, it's going to rely on him and also junior shortstop Chris Carbone.
And I was going to say that I think the big question, I don't think Roofer's as much a question. I think he's kind of the given when it comes to the Rams. The question is, what after him? You can't pitch him every game.
Now, after him, Carbone's going to get a look at some pitching. Ryan Brinkman will probably be the number 2 starter heading into the season. Jacob Reinhardt, Brian Watrous, a couple of JV call-ups. Dylan Angelo throws as well, Zach Dufel. It's going to be pitching by committee, but you know the Roofer's going to be the guy who's going to be up there against those big boys when they have them.
Now, my question goes a little farther to the west, and not to Fort Plain. I don't think there's too many questions with him. They've got a really solid twosome there with Brent Baker and Jabin Weaver. I think the question is, what does Kanjahari do this year? Kanjahari had a pair of stalwart starters last year. Paige Staller, O'Neill.
Yeah, and Anthony Taylor as well.
That
sort of great senior class they had for 3 different sports, and it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Kanjahari won the Class Double-C title last year. They've had a very impressive run. It's going to be hard to replace that top of the rotation. I know Joe Horning is probably going to be their offensive anchor, but it's just going to be tough to replace a guy like Dane O'Neill who can go out and strike out 13, 14 guys in a sectional championship game.
I was going to say probably one of the most dominant performances we saw all of last year. The question is, can this team that did it with pitching last year, can they turn around and do it on the bats?
It'll be interesting to see. Brent Watterson is a very good coach. The WAC has that reputation of not being the deepest league, so they can certainly contend. The WAC South probably a little deeper than the North, even though the North is even with the loss of Fonda Fulton to the Colonial Council, with Spa Catholic and Fort Plain at the top of the North. It's a 2-team race before the season even starts.
Well, I guess there's the question: where does Fort Plain stand in that race? They have to be one of the favorites.
Right now, I would put them as 1A to Spa Catholic's 1, only because Fort Plain really lost their best offensive player from last year in Mark Hannafin and also Tyler Barheit. They've got tremendous pitching with Jabin Weaver and Brent Baker. Jabin Weaver really stepping into last year showed that he was an ace. This year he's going to have to show that he's a big game pitcher because Spa Catholic has one of the best big game pitchers in the entire section in Dylan Anderson.
Absolutely. You can't count out any team coached by Craig Phillips. You know, once again, I'm a big Jack Ray fan. Jack's behind the plate. Jack is probably going to be counted on a lot more offensively than he was last year. I think he'll be up to the task. There's just so many kids, and once again, just like when we talked about the basketball team all winter, this is a character team. This is a team that's always better than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, and just tremendously coached. They always play good defense. They always find little ways. Craig Phillips plays small ball better than just about any coach you'll ever find. This is a team that in their early season games, when they're overmatching their opponents, you will still see them steal with guys on first and third. You will see them drop the squeeze bunt. Every trick Craig Phillips knows.
There will be no team in the section that is more fundamentally sound than a Craig Phillips coach team.
And just to mention, out in Fonda, that team is replacing a lot in terms of, especially in terms of its pitching. They're going to be looking at Luke Nethaway to be doing just about everything.
He's going to be sweeping out the stands. He's going to be selling popcorn.
He will be pitching. You may be seeing him run behind the plate to catch his own pitch. He's played. I think I've seen him play 4 or 5 different positions. I've very least seen him play pitcher, catcher, first base, and at least one outfield position. He's going to be their key this year. maybe the best pure power hitter in the entire section.
And once again, a Rick Palumbo coach team, you know they're going to be as sound as they possibly can be.
Yeah, hopefully the sun gets out this week. We get our baseball season underway. Until then, we'll be back on Thursday. For Mark, I'm Adam. We'll see you next time here at SidelineGuys.recordernews.com for the Sideline Guys, brought to you by Crystal Ristorante.